Hey there, this is the next update that I promised in the short published earlier today. I finally managed to get PWM working, more specifically playing PCM audio at currently 6 kilohertz, 8-bit bit depth through PWM into a pair of headphones. Currently it's mono, so just one headphone, technically. I'm gonna show you in a bit. First, I'm gonna say briefly what the problem was. So I started and I didn't know much about this and about PWM and exactly the mechanics of it. So I thought, okay, so technically we just need to pretty much send frequencies to the output. I thought it was like that simple, pretty much. That you have, for example, a MIDI file, and you take the frequency and then you send it to the output and you hear the frequency coming out, right? And it turned out to be more complicated than that, because the issue here is mainly timing. The logic itself, and I'm not using MIDI, I'm using PCM right now, so you already have rendered samples. It's rendered audio instead of you rendering in real time like a synthesizer would, which is on the roadmap, but that's more complicated, even more complicated than this. Nevertheless, you already have rendered audio, but you still have to deal with timing quirks. And that's the most complicated part of it. That's pretty much most of what you do in many of these things, even memory access. You have to sync everything. Timing is everything. So I was just sending sampling left and right and willy-nilly and thinking that, okay, well, it was gonna work and it's just fine, right? It doesn't really matter. Or at least I didn't say I didn't say it didn't matter, but I didn't think that it mattered, right? I didn't think that timing would be a problem. So I wrote the main loop. It's an always FF loop using flip-flops, and I heard this monotone in the background constantly. So I thought, okay, that's weird. I checked my audio, checked if there was anything there, like a bass line that was maybe getting moved up, something in the actual audio. Nothing. I changed audio to something else. Nothing. Same monotone, exact same frequency. It started at 4,802 hertz. Later, it moved to about 5.6 when I started playing with the sample rate. And so I looked at the loop again and I was like, okay, so what's causing this? It's somehow related to the sample rate. Now, I've ran a couple of experiments. I added a lot of auxiliary variables here that I used throughout to test this, and drafted quite a lot of little tests, experiments here. And the problem was that originally I was loading new samples from memory, fetching them from memory within the sampling loop. Basically a non-playback operation was in the playback loop, which introduced this non-uniform operation. And this happened to take place every fifth iteration, every fifth sample, or every fifth iteration of the loop. And by loop I mean clock. You can see that, and always FF, so cycle technically. But for simplicity, I'm just saying an iteration of a loop. So every fifth one, right? And this mapped to the sample rate. I tried setting it. I started at 6K. I started moving it up to 8K. Then I tried 44.1, and I was thinking like, okay, so it is changing, but what's the relationship between the monotone and sample rate? Then I set it to 50. That's a nice round number. And I noticed a frequency. I measured this by my using my phone, by the way. There's this app I found for measuring the most significant sound that the phone's microphone can detect. It's basically the loudest sound, and that's at least the one that the app highlights. So I tried this, and at 50 kilohertz sample rate, I noticed that the monotone was exactly at 10. Exactly at 10. So I was like, okay, 50 divided by 10, 5. Okay. I'm taking 4 samples each iteration, right? Or at a time. So something is happening when the loop goes into the 5th every time. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th one is the problem, and that was the buffer refill. That was when I was taking more samples into the local buffer to refill it, right? And you can see the buffer here. This was the original buffer. So, and that still is the buffer, pretty much. Although, yeah, you'll see later. But anyway, so the refilling was the problem. That was the non-uniformity that was causing this weird artifact there. And what I learned was that, okay, so if you have a loop like this that samples audio and plays it, every iteration must be uniform, or pretty much the loop must be uniform. Every iteration must be identical to each other. The actual data processing must be elsewhere, must be done in parallel, not in the same loop. You can't do 4 samples and then refill a buffer in the same loop. You have to do it separately, in parallel, but in a separate loop, right? So I did that, and that fixed it. So I learned something today about this. Whenever in the future something like this happens, and this applies to any similar logic like that takes something in a loop and does something with it. It's heavily tied to timing. So hopefully my explanation was understandable. I'm still trying to grasp it myself, but I think I get it, and it does make sense. You need to keep it because all of this relies on precise timing. Like, for example, even sample rate. To hear the audio correctly, it needs to stay, it needs to be sampling at the same rate, right? If you introduce some sort of a slowdown somewhere, it throws off the entire runtime of the loop, and then it introduces these glitches in there. And you can sometimes hear that as popping or clicking or something like that. In this case, it was this this monotone that kept playing on every 5th sample, pretty much. So I fixed that, and now it works. Now I'm gonna show you what it sounds like. So I will reset. Let me get the headphone. Currently it's exactly 50 seconds. I can't fit more into the caches. I'm using VRAM as the CPU cache, and later I'm gonna try SPI flash. That requires some custom work, because with VRAM it's relatively simple to access, but SPI flash is a bit more complicated, and then DDR2 is bonkers insane after that, and I'm gonna do it myself, but not yet. So it's gonna need more time, and that DDR2 is timing heavy. That's a goddamn disaster. So so that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm planning on streaming that live, so you're gonna see a person go literally crazy while doing DDR2 from scratch. I'm looking forward to that. I want to do it. I want to learn. You know, this is something that I really enjoy, so I'm definitely doing it. Whether I succeed or not, that's another matter. But I'm gonna try live. I can't tell you when yet because I don't know myself, but I'm like a very rough estimate would be within a couple of months. We'll see. I first want to max out what I have access to before doing DDR2. So SPI flash, for example, would be the next step. I also want to do VGA for video output and maybe Ethernet. We'll see before getting into DDR2 because DDR2 is going to take time. At least I would say a month or two at the very least to get actually working properly. Most of it is going to be debugging timing quirks. So now for the curious, I can show you what currently the loop looks like. It's very dirty now in the sense that I haven't cleaned up the code from all the debugging stuff. So I apologize. This is what the loop looks like, and then I have a secondary loop for the counter. I decided to split the counter, separate it because I think it should be done in parallel like this, not in the same loop. So the counter is separate, and then at the end, so we have 3 flip-flops, and at the end we're doing what you saw, the frequency meter here. So that's there. That's this down here. I'm scrolling with one hand, so apologize. Anyway, so you can see that. This is, by the way, one day it'll probably be public. I said that it would. I think it will almost certainly. Currently, you know, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily want people to see. It's a lot of it. You see a lot of debugging here. A lot of it is very hacky or like a, you know, not very ideal, I would say, or at least that's my, you know, my position on it. I want to get it, you know, clean, nice, performant. Right now, I myself don't consider it that. Some people maybe would. I don't. So at that point, I'll probably open source it. But right now, I don't know. It's kind of awkward. So right now, not yet, but eventually. Same goes for the assembler, and it'll. Right now, it's very basic, but it'll have like label support, stuff like that. So it'll be more featureful, and I think it could be a good reference implementation. So that will also eventually most likely be published. Yeah, anyway. So this is an update on this. I think I'm gonna extract the actual playback into a short so that, you know, it's kind of like this atomic, like little byte, 1 minute, you know, excerpt with just the playback. I think it's insanely cool. I wanna do more tracks, enjoy it for a little bit, and then move on, get to work again. This took me like 2.5 days, about 16 or 17 hours in SystemVerilog, just typing. I use WakaTime for code tracking, or you know, coding time tracking. So for the past 2 days or 2.5 days, it says like about 16 or 17 hours. So wild. Most of it was debugging. So first, like, it took me like to implement the core logic, it took me like 3 hours, but after that it was just debugging pretty much. Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching and see you later.